happened in two rapid, brilliant flashes of white light. Boom, boom! I was only 19. I was just riding my bicycle. The last thing that I expected to happen was to have a full-blown, spontaneous spiritual awakening. But that's what happened. I just had this moment of clarity, and I just looked around and realized that everything that I thought was real was really an illusion. And I realized how programmed everybody was and how unhappy and separated they were. And that's when my spiritual journey began. And that was over 40 years ago. So in this video, I'm going to share with you 11 clear signs that you are awakening spiritually. These are the things that happened to me. So if you like what I'm sharing here, please give this video a thumbs up and tell YouTube to share it with more people. I was in college studying meteorology and I had my entire life mapped out, which basically disappeared in a puff of smoke in like a second. And it was 1979. There was no internet. There's no support. Nobody knew about spiritual awakenings. I mean, I started to read books from enlightened masters, but it was information that was very hard to access, and there was just nobody I could talk to at the time. And I fell a lot. I had a lot of challenges, but I overcame these challenges. I found teachers, or teachers found me. I worked through a lot. And looking back, I really feel like I went through all of this and overcame a lot, so that come the 2020s, where the energy is increasing and a lot more people, exponentially a lot more people are having awakenings now, that I could be a teacher, I could be a way shower. And if you're watching this video, chances are that you are having an awakening now, or have had one recently, or are about to. And that's why I started this channel in the first place. So I'm happy to be able to show the way. So sign number 1 is feeling energies in the body. And now you may not get all 11 signs, and these are really my experiences, but if you can take most of these, chances are that you're undergoing an awakening process. So energy in the body could be just feeling waves, or feeling vibration, or even having tinnitus, which isn't really tinnitus, it's just energy. I used to get this feeling when I first started to awaken, spontaneously, every now and then I would just feel rumbling at the base of my spine, and I thought these were earthquakes. And if I was hanging out with a bunch of my friends, I'd be like, "Did you feel that?" And they'd be like, "Feel what, Adam?" I learned to keep my mouth shut pretty quickly, but I'd say, "Did you feel the earthquakes?" And my friends would be like, "What are you smoking?" Because we want some of that. Whatever you're smoking, hand it over. It was the 1970s. The thing is, what you want to do is be able to relax and let the energy flow, because I had a lot of blockages from childhood issues, from suppressed traumas and all of that. That created a lot of energy clogs in my body. So as the energy started to increase, I got a lot of physical discomfort as well as emotional discomfort from that. And again, I didn't know what to do, but the idea is to just relax and try to let the energy flow. Just be clear the old programs, meditate. I hadn't meditated a day in my life before this had happened. Sign number 2 is that you naturally become drawn to spiritual activities. So when this happened to me, I started to study martial arts, and that led to studying yoga and shamanic practices and different esoteric religions like Taoism and Native American studies and esoteric Christianity, for example. So if you start to feel yourself naturally drawn to start a practice, or naturally drawn to spiritual material, there's a good chance there's a reason for that, and it's because you're having an awakening. The third sign is that you start to see beyond the illusion. And you start to realize that there's a lot of programming in society, that there's a lot hidden in the media and in politics and stuff like that. You start to see through people, and these are all things that were happening to me. In fact, I went through a period where I'd see literally 2 faces on some people, and I knew they were hiding things. So you can get very telepathic also. You start to understand the ego and what that's all about. And you start to realize that everything's an illusion. Like a good example is that we appear to be solid, but we're made up of atoms, and chemistry proves that atoms are really empty space. They're 99.9% empty space with tiny protons and electrons. So we're over 99% empty space, yet we appear solid. So when you have an awakening, you really start to get a feel that things aren't really what they appear to be as you start to understand energy more. The fourth sign is that you start to have some rapid developments in your intuition, or your psychic abilities just start to kick in. And you start to realize that everything is energy. And then you start to see things like orbs maybe, or auras. That happened to me also. A few months when I was doing yoga after the awakening, I was starting to see colors around people. Sometimes your clairvoyance, your clairaudience gets activated. I would have things happen to me like I'd wake up and think about somebody just pop into my head that I may not have seen in a month or two, and then I see them later that day. Or you may have very psychic dreams also, or very prophetic dreams. You may start to sense or see your spirit guides. So anything along the lines of having some spontaneous or rapid opening of your psychic abilities is a sign that you're having an awakening. The fifth sign are synchronicities. And when you're in an awakening process, you tend to see a lot of repeating numbers like 1111 or 111 or 555 or stuff like that. And you start to realize that there's really no coincidences, that everything happens, it happens for a reason. You might think about somebody and then their favorite song comes on the radio or stuff like that. So there's really no accidents, and Spirit is always trying to point us in the direction of the truth. So synchronicities are basically Spirit or our higher self's way of guiding us into our own truth and to our own divinity. If you're getting some signs that I'm not even mentioning, please feel free to comment them down below. I mean, I'm teaching, I'm doing this video, but I'm not like the Grandma Zoo. I don't know everything. So if you're getting some signs that I'm not mentioning, please comment them down below. And in fact, leave me a comment and let me know what you think of this video, what you want to see on this channel. Let's keep the conversation going. Let's keep the community active, please. And when you comment, it actually helps YouTube to recognize to share this video with more people. So I thank you for that. And sign number 6 is developing spontaneous healing abilities, or maybe having this urge to want to heal people, or maybe feeling a lot of heat in your hands. If that's happening, or if you're finding that, say you're comforting somebody and they start telling you, wow, that feels really good, or I feel that energy in my body, or if there's some signs that what you're doing is actually helping people to feel better, that may be developing spontaneous healing abilities. We all have the capacity to work with energy, send it through our bodies, and to activate other people's body and energetic system to help them to heal themselves. I learned that I could heal over distances, and of course it started by having a crush on this young lady, and she was very sick, and I used my mind and I focused on her and sent her energy, and her fever broke that night, and I was like, oh my God, this really does work. Sign number 7 is what we call ascension symptoms, or having strange things happening in your body and your emotions. And when you undergo awakening, you start to access more energy, and it starts to flow through your body and your emotional and mental body, as well as your physical body. And that excites the cells, and that changes the nervous system. Science is even proving that our DNA can change when our emotions and our energy changes. So it's very common to develop mysterious illnesses, or to become very emotional out of the blue, or to feel like you're going absolutely crazy, or crying or laughing more, or having strange or different sleep patterns. If this is happening, this is just your body adjusting to new frequencies. The thing to do is to keep meditating and to keep working with it. For a while, years after my awakening, I had such a blockage in my solar plexus, I had to actually stop meditating because the pain got so intense, until I figured out how to release those blocks and send energy through that. You may have certain physical or emotional symptoms that are a little bit unpleasant, but it's part of the growing pains. It's part of the changes that happen physiologically when we undergo awakening. The eighth sign is you start to feel more connected to nature. And I used to go out and start to talk to trees and hold trees and feel the energies, and I would get messages from the trees. They would tell me things that happened, you know, like psychically or telepathically. So you may feel more drawn to nature. Another thing that happened to me is that when I was meditating outside one time and it started to rain, I started to feel the raindrops hitting the ground, not just intellectually knowing, well, I'm one with all this, so I can feel this. I actually was feeling rain as if my body was in the ground around me. You may not have something quite that profound, but if you're getting this urge to be out in nature more, to spend more time alone, or to meditate in nature, or if you start to feel like energy frequencies, like if you start to walk through the woods and you start to feel patches of high energy or low energy, and you start to become sensitive, and as it gets even stronger, you may start to really connect with nature in a way that you can get messages from nature and get messages from the air, the water, the trees, and really feel distinctly the different energy flows and the different aspects of nature. So the ninth sign that you may get is losing the fear of dying or losing the fear of being alone. Because as you have an awakening, you start to realize that life isn't just about this physical life, that it extends well beyond the limitations of the body. And you start to realize that you're really not alone, that you're very much connected to spirit and you're very much connected to everybody. So when you have a spiritual awakening, there's a tendency to lose the fear of dying. And of course, as I often say, when you lose the fear of dying, you lose the fear of living. My process as a medium, gradually I lost the fear of dying. But even shortly after I had my awakening, I really wanted to be alone a lot more. And I really wanted to be in meditation because I would feel the connection to everything and I would never feel alone. So if you're losing, the fear of dying or the fear of being alone, you may be having a spiritual awakening. And by the way, have you subscribed to this channel yet? And if not, what are we waiting for? No, seriously, if you like this content, please subscribe and please be part of this community. And if you hit the little bell, you'll get notified when I do free live events and when I release new videos. And please share this content. I am doing this to build a conscious community and to help everybody awaken. So if you believe in what we're doing, please subscribe and please be part of the community. Thank you. Number 10 is basically really understanding the need to let go. So if you really start feeling like you've been holding on to a lot of stuff and that it's not really doing you any good and that it's bringing you down and stuff like that, or if you're getting very sensitive to other people and that they bring you down, this kind of goes a little bit more into number 9 actually. But sometimes you prefer not to be around certain people because you really start to feel their energy more. Understanding the need to let go is really important because when we let go, that's when we start to open up more to spirit and we start to become more sensitive to our own energy and understand the nature of our conditioning and our programming. And it's usually what we hold on to that blocks all the success in our life. So as you have an awakening, you start to see that dynamic, that you start to see that you really do create your own reality. The whole victim mentality thing starts to wane and you stop blaming others. Hopefully you won't start blaming other people, but you stop blaming others for your problems, start to see you're part of it. So this is part of evolving past the ego and starting to see things more from a spiritual perspective. So letting go is so important. I'll have videos on that later on, but it's really when I started to learn how to let go, when I stopped having negative symptoms from my awakening. I realized that a lot of the challenges that I was having was because I was really trying to hold on to the old self. So I was not losing the fear of dying, because when you lose the fear of dying, you lose the fear of change also. Because when you have an awakening, you die and you become reborn, essentially speaking. So that's number 9 and number 10. And number 11, which is my favorite, is you start to feel your heart opening. And that's often a very that's often the very first sign of awakening, because our heart chakra is the chakra that's like right in the middle of the chakra system. So in the heart, our physical selves and our spiritual selves meet at the heart. So when we have an awakening and we start to tune into our spiritual selves, we start to ignite and open the heart center that way. Things that happen to you start to become more compassionate, and you start to want to help people. You develop empathy. You get this overwhelming feeling of love. You start to feel maybe the suffering of the world. So long, deep breathing really helps, because when we start to open our heart, it can be very overwhelming, because we live in the 2020s. A lot of people are suffering. I mean, they always have been, but it's becoming a lot more prevalent now. So doing long, deep breathing really helps, and inhaling the love of the universe into your heart. Feel your heart open and expand through your entire body. Then exhale and release any negative thoughts or feelings or emotions. When we awaken, we start to feel it in the heart. So those are the 11 signs. I hope that that is very helpful for you. Again, please comment and like this video, and namaste and aloha, and I'll see you at the next video.